It's a great honor to be here, and particularly to be with all of you and those who have marched with you, and to be with our Democratic leader from the House, Nancy Pelosi, who has done such a great job, and I so appreciated all of her comments. And I know in a few minutes you're going to hear from some other members of the House, and then one of my colleagues as well, Senator Sam Brownback from Kansas. You know, I just want to thank everybody who marched. How many of you actually marched? How many of you marched? Everybody put your hands up who actually marched. And I want to particularly thank Simon and Manute and everybody who marched all the way. And I love the fact that you started in New York. That makes me very proud of all my New Yorkers who came down to draw attention to what's happening. You know, we can't do enough to try to get the American government's attention, the American public's attention, and the world's attention. And you already have heard that there's a lot of possible actions that can be taken, but unfortunately we've got to get more public advocacy and pressure in order to make it happen. You know, we recognized in the Congress and called it for what it was, genocide, in Darfur nearly 2 years ago, back in July of 2004. We have voted for and supported humanitarian operations. We've called for U.S. leadership at the United Nations. We've authorized funding for the African Union mission in Darfur. In November in the Senate, we adopted the Darfur Peace and Accountability Act, and I hope this legislation moves forward in the House very soon. Now, in addition, we can and should do more to protect civilians in Darfur. We've got to make sure that we stabilize tensions between Sudan and Chad, and we have to ensure that the comprehensive peace agreement is implemented fully and resolve instability and the remnants of civil war in southern and eastern Sudan. Now, I wrote to the President a few weeks ago outlining several steps that I asked that he consider taking, and I agree 100% with Leader Pelosi. We do need a high-level envoy for Sudan. But we also need to convene a meeting of world leaders to establish a clear plan on how to protect civilians in Darfur. You know, it's more than 100 weeks of genocide, and we've never had that kind of meeting. Our government has to take a more active role in the UN Security Council to encourage full implementation of existing resolutions and expedite the deployment of additional international peacekeepers to work alongside African Union troops. But first, we've got to assist the existing African Union peacekeepers in their effort. That means financial support and NATO assistance, especially with logistics, intelligence, and command and control. I've been calling ever since a year ago, February, for this kind of NATO support. I will continue to do so at every chance that I get, because we need to establish a no-fly zone over Darfur. We need to eliminate the deadly combination of the strafing of civilian targets by the Sudanese from the air and their allies and their, Janjaweed militias on the ground, because people are totally trapped. We need to cut off their air power. We need to end their ability to terrorize people from the skies, and that also gives us a better chance to get the African Union peacekeepers in there to try to handle the Janjaweed. We also need to pay more attention to reconstruction in southern Sudan and ensure that the National Congress Party in Khartoum keeps its international promises, and we should be prosecuting those who attack civilians and aid workers, no matter where it happens. We have recognized that the government in Khartoum has committed crimes against humanity and genocidal acts. That is an international consensus, but nothing happens. The behavior continues.
Right.
And on Monday, a senior humanitarian official from the UN was barred by Khartoum from visiting and even flying over Darfur. So as Simon and Manute and all of you complete your walk today, our collective journey must continue. We cannot rest, we must not stop until the darkest atrocities have been brought to light, and we cannot prevent the efforts by the African Union and others from going forward. We should be expediting them and facilitating them.
Yes.
And we have to do everything possible to try to stop the violence and bring peace to the people of Sudan. So your being here sends a strong signal that there are people around our country. And to answer the question that the Vice President asked Leader Pelosi, the reason Americans care about the people of Darfur is because their government doesn't. And it's about time they have the voices of all of us speaking for them, because they do not have any protection or support from the government that should be representing them as their citizens deserve to have. Thank you all very much for what you're doing.